New York City, this is Democracy Now!
The mayor wanted to run a marathon. They provide generators in Central Park. There's people in areas without power, and what's the generators for them? Come on. I mean, the mayor, you got to be getting some money, whatever. You're a mega billionaire, so donate. Come down.
As New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg cancels the New York Marathon under enormous pressure from his staff and the city, we report on three of the hardest-hit areas of New York impacted by Superstorm Sandy: Staten Island, the Rockaways, and Red Hook. Powers returned to most of Manhattan, but over 1 million residents, the outer boroughs in New Jersey, remain in the dark.
My name is Arena Edwards. This week been really hectic on us, especially the little ones, the ones like Pampers and milk and stuff like that. It's kind of crazy. We need help. Seriously.
As the temperature at night drops near freezing, frustration is growing as residents complain about lack of food, power, and warm clothes. And we'll look at how Occupy Wall Street has transformed itself into Occupy Sandy relief. Then, with the presidential election just a day away, could 11th-hour Republican voter suppression swing the state of Ohio for Mitt Romney? We'll speak with the nation's Ari Berman in Cleveland.
It's not about stopping the phantom menace of voter fraud. It is about Republicans trying to shape an electorate in their own favor by making it harder for minority voters and low-income voters to be able to vote in the next election.
All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Haiti is grappling with yet another crisis 1 week after Hurricane Sandy hit. The United Nations is warning Sandy destroyed 70% of Haiti's crops and left 1.5 million people at serious risk of hunger. The death toll stands at 54, but is expected to rise. The storm destroyed some 21,000 homes and caused more than $104 million of damage. Large parts of Haiti's south are still unreachable by land due to massive flooding, sparking fears of a new outbreak of cholera. The new devastation brought by the superstorm comes as Haiti still tries to rebuild from the massive 2010 earthquake that killed some 300,000 people. Power has been restored to close to 80% of the 8.5 million households across 16 states left in the dark by last week's Superstorm Sandy. But that leaves 1.85 million still without power, including more than 1 million in New Jersey, the state hardest hit. In New York City, subway service has now been mostly restored as the city slowly continues its recovery. But with the superstorm flooding and damaging thousands of homes, New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg warned of a new housing crisis for up to 40,000 displaced residents in need of shelter.
We don't have a lot of empty housing in this city, so it's really a problem to find housing. We need it. We are not going to let anybody go sleeping in the streets, and we're not going to let anybody go without blankets, food, and water. But it's a challenge, and we're working on that as fast as we can.
We'll have more on the hurricanes after headlines. The 2012 presidential race is in its final day of campaigning before voters head to the polls Tuesday to make their choice. On Sunday, President Obama and Republican challenger Mitt Romney each crisscrossed 4 battleground states in a frenzied effort to get out the vote. Speaking in Florida, Obama said Romney would revive the harshest policies of previous Republican administrations.
It's not just a choice between two parties or candidates. It's a choice between two different visions of America. On the one hand, you can choose to return to the top-down policies that crashed our economy. Or you can join me in building a future that focuses on a strong and growing middle class.
After a tightened race over the past month, President Obama appears to have regained the momentum, holding the vast majority of leads in polls of the battleground states that'll decide the Electoral College. Speaking in Ohio, Mitt Romney called Obama a failed president.
I'd ask them to put aside all the speeches and all the ads and all the attacks and to look at the record. Because, you see, talk is cheap, but a record, it's real, and it's earned with real effort. Change is not measured in words and speeches. Change is measured in achievements. So let's look at that record.
As Mitt Romney and President Obama push for a strong Election Day turnout, the 2012 election will likely wind up setting a record for early voting. More than 1.6 million people have already voted in the critical battleground state of Ohio, either at the polls or with absentee ballots. Over the weekend, long lines were reported across the state as voters braved cold weather to line up for hours at the polls. Ohio Republican Secretary of State John Husted, meanwhile, has issued a new last-minute directive that would disqualify ballots not accompanied by a form accurately documenting the type of identification used. Attorneys for the Northeast Ohio Coalition for the Homeless and the Service Employees International Union have filed a challenge in court. In Florida, Democrats filed a lawsuit Sunday seeking to force Republican Governor Rick Scott to extend early voting. Scott and the Republican state legislature reduced early voting last year, and now voters are seeing waits of more than 6 hours at the polls. On Sunday, a judge ordered Florida to extend early voting in Orange County after an alleged bomb threat forced the closure of a polling station for several hours. We'll have more on the voting struggles in Ohio and Florida later in the broadcast. New figures show outside groups such as super PACs have spent more than $1.11 billion on the 2012 election. According to Demos and U.S. PIRG, the figure marks a 400% increase over outside spending in 2008. More than 60% of the nearly $441 million raised by super PACs came from a group of just 91 people. A separate report by the Sunlight Foundation has found dark money groups, which are able to donate anonymously, have spent over $213 million through November 1st, with 81% of the money going toward backing Republican candidates. Syria's main opposition groups have opened unity talks in Qatar amidst ongoing clashes inside their country. The meeting comes days after the Obama administration withdrew its support for the Syrian National Council and said Syria's opposition should be more representative. In the latest violence, at least 20 people were reportedly killed Sunday when Syrian forces shelled a Palestinian refugee camp near Damascus. More than 11 people were also wounded in the capital when a bomb struck a government building. In Kuwait, state forces have again attacked a protest of thousands of people challenging the ruling monarchy's effort to change electoral laws. The U.S.-backed Kuwaiti regime has stoked anger after dissolving parliament and proposing voting laws that opponents have described as a constitutional coup. On Sunday, Kuwaiti police fired stun grenades, tear gas, and smoke bombs at thousands of protesters blocking a major road south of the capital of Kuwait City. It was the second crackdown on a major protest inside Kuwait in 2 weeks. An Israeli television network is reporting Israel's military leaders rebuffed orders from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Ehud Barak to prepare for a bombing of Iran 2 years ago. According to Channel 2, Netanyahu and Barak directed the military to ready an imminent strike on Iranian nuclear sites. But their order was rejected after Israel's top army officials concluded doing so would be illegal and set off a dangerous chain of events that could lead to global conflict. And video has emerged from Colorado of a heavily armed police contingent carrying out an eviction order at the home of a woman in Colorado Springs. 63-year-old Sahara Donahue had enlisted the help of local Occupy activists after U.S. Bank ordered her to vacate her foreclosed home of 24 years. When the activists set up a barricade to delay the eviction last week, at least 10 truckloads of police reportedly arrived at the scene carrying heavy weaponry. The police forced the activists onto the ground at gunpoint before barging into the home and carrying out the eviction. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman, and I am glad to be home. With temperatures dropping into the 30s at night, concern is growing for the nearly 2 million people still without power after Superstorm Sandy. While power has been restored in most of Manhattan, many of the hardest hit areas of the city remain in the dark, including Staten Island, Rockaways, and Red Hook. In New Jersey, more than 1 million people are without power. On Sunday, New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg said 40,000 displaced residents of the city are now in need of shelter. We begin today's show in the Rockaways, a peninsula located in the southeast section of the city. Democracy Now! Senior producer Mike Burke traveled there on Friday.
And if you didn't see the people sitting around outside, it would look like a war zone. Like they came in here, they bombed the neighborhood, and they left it. So it's eerie.
We're here on Beach 91st Street in the Far Rockaways section of Queens, New York. It's Friday afternoon, 4 days after Hurricane Sandy devastated this community. We're standing right next to what was the boardwalk that used to stretch along the beach here in the Rockaways. The boardwalk is now taking up much of this street. You can see the boardwalk literally on top of cars that were parked here. Residents tell us about 5 feet of water poured down this street on Monday. As you walk down the street today, you see debris in giant piles in front of almost every single house. Let's go into one apartment that was completely destroyed on Monday during the storm.
My name is Louis DeCarolis. I'm 51 years old. On Monday night, I was sitting here at the computer. I felt a little water at my feet, so I got the mop. I went into the back where my back bedroom is, and the bedroom door was closed. And I didn't know it at the time, but the room apparently had filled up with water. I opened the door, and the water just came and blasted me, bouncing me off the wall. So when it hit me, I ran out this way. I opened up this door, and the backyard had filled up with probably 3.5 feet of water, and that came in. So I was caught in like a double whammy from the front and the back.
What were your first thoughts when you re-entered your apartment for the first time after the storm?
My first thought was, am I going to be able to start all over at my age? You know, it's a little difficult when you're 50-something years old. Not that I'm old, and I'm still alive, thank God, but why? And we need help. We need Red Cross to come around. We need FEMA to come around. A lot of people can't get out of their houses. We got a lot of senior citizens down here that can't get out. My sons, I have 2 sons. Me and my sons, every day we walk from house to house, and we knock on the doors to see if we can get them any water, if they need anything. Do they have the medicine in reach?
Are you worried that you're going to see more extreme storms like this going forward?
I think this was a long time coming, and maybe it's a wake-up call for us. Will there be more storms? I don't know, probably.
After we left Beach 91st Street, we walked east here in Far Rockaways. Street after street, block after block, completely devastated by Superstorm Sandy. We're now here at Beach 84th Street, in front of the Haven Ministries. We have heard that the church suffered massive flooding during Hurricane Sandy, and the deacon of the church has offered to give us a tour inside.
This is Haven's International Ministries, and my name is Curtis Bolden. I'm a deacon here, and what you're noticing is that the height of the water level is marked all around the wall, and right now I'm standing next to the water markings inside the sanctuary hall in the church, and the water markings are just below my shoulder, and I'm at 6'2". This is about, I'll say about 4'10", about 4 foot 10 inches. This is the first time that people know of the bay actually met the sea in the middle at 5 feet. This water level was all throughout Far Rockaway. A lot of people don't understand that. This was the water level straight across. You know, you can still see that the floor is still covered in mud and some water we still have to get out, but there's still no electricity to put a pump. We need generators.
So people that aren't familiar with this neighborhood, you know, how would you describe it?
Far Rockaway is like a distant island of New York. It's actually still a part of Queens, New York, but it's a remote area, sort of like some people would like to say the stepchild of New York, where it's far out. It's not that easy to get out here by public transportation. It's really very remote, somewhat similar to how Atlantic City looks. but Atlantic City is not surrounded by water like Far Rockaway is. You know, it's going to take a while.
We're now outside the Hamel Houses, one of the largest public housing developments in the Rockaways. The National Guard has set up a food and water distribution point, and we're going to talk to some of the folks standing in line.
My name is Arena Edwards. This week been really hectic on us, especially the little ones, the ones like Pampers and milk and stuff like that. It's kind of crazy.
What message do you have for city officials and Mayor Bloomberg?
Help! We need help. Seriously.
The most that we need right now is light. At least you have light you can see. At nighttime, it's pitch black. You can't even see what's in front of you.
Stay here with another hour and a half to 2 hours. The whole Far Rockaway is pitch black. They're putting the generators out there on the boulevard, but then when they put the generators in the middle of the projects, we could probably get some light within the apartment off of the generators.
My name is Crystal. We standing online because we have no needs, no means to supply for our kids and our family, and this is the only way. We stand online every day, and we get supplies from the Army and the government, and that's about it.
How long have you been in line today?
Today we've been online for about 2-3 hours, and it's not like we have no other options, so we have to wait. And yesterday it was 4 hours, and the other day it was about 6 hours, and as people who need, we're going to stay out here for 10 hours if we have to supply for our kids.
If you had a chance to speak with Mayor Bloomberg, what would you tell him?
He needs to just step up. He stepped up a little. He sent us the food and the transportation. So he needs to, you know, step in our shoes and come out here and see us and see what we're going through, just like any other government should do for their community, too. So he needs to come out here instead of sending people out here to just know that, you know, we're not mad at him. There's nothing he could do about it, but he can do more.
My name is Pancho, and we getting waters and stuff to support my house.
We need more help down here. We need our electricity on. What are we going to do? Last year I left for it. This year I stayed, and I wish I had left this year.
How would you describe what this past week was like?
It was a disaster.
Sad. I really felt like I was the people in South Africa. When it's pitch dark, that's what it actually looks like. When you're walking down these dirt roads and the sands and stuff, that's what it actually looks like.
We're going to pull out of this. Yeah, Rockaway got devastated, but I think we're going to pull out of this and come out of this a lot stronger and hopefully a lot better.
That piece produced by Democracy Now! Senior producer Mike Burke and videographer Elizabeth Press. Mike joins us here in the studio. Mike, the anger is intense in Rockaways right now.
Yeah, we stood in line with some of these people, and they'd been in line for hours just to get bottled water. They were asking, you know, where's the Red Cross? Where is the city? And interestingly, we were down there on Friday, and the very next day, Mayor Michael Bloomberg made an unannounced visit to the Rockaways. The press was not notified about the visit, but a New York One reporter happened to see the mayor there and caught a very interesting interaction between the mayor and some local residents.
Let's go to that clip.
This is the first drop-off over the bridge. We can't even get a bottle of water, a hot chocolate. 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock, so we got to wait from last night till 1 o'clock in the morning, in the afternoon.
That were the residents angry at Mayor Bloomberg, Mike.
Interestingly, one of the more active relief efforts that we came across in the Rockaways was done by a group calling themselves Occupy Sandy Relief. And this is a group pretty much of alumni from Occupy Wall Street who started organizing really in the hours after the storm about ways that just, you know, regular members of the community could help. And we talked to one organizer named Catherine Yeager. She lives in the Rockaways, and we talked to her outside of a restaurant called the Veggie Island, which had been transformed into a relief hub. And this is part of what she had to say.
My name is Catherine Yeager. I moved down to the Rockaway in March of this last year. I am good friends with Elizabeth Grist, who owns Veggie Island. I have a bungalow down on 89th Street, and I was here for the entire hurricane. You know, it's been a whirlwind. We've been trying as much as possible to organize things. We've been putting food out as much as possible. Lots of stuff has been coming in, and I just love Rockaway, and I want it back to where it was before the storm.
So what's happening behind you right now?
What's happening behind me right now is basically we're working with Sandy Relief and OWS. The people are bringing by the carloads in clothes, food, canned goods, diapers, batteries, flashlights, everything under the sun, you know, that we kind of need right now. And so people are able to come up and sort of pick through the different things they need, be handed the things. We have warm food that we're making all the time for people. And so it's really essentially, I mean, we have cars that come in and things are dropped off, and within 30 minutes, it's all gone. You know, I mean, it's that desperate down here. People have literally lost everything. Right now, the biggest issue that we need is generators, and we need pumps because we can't get the electricity turned back on until all of the basements are pumped out. And there's still, if you walk Rockaway and you knock on any door, every single door, someone's going to need help. The water that came in is toxic. Okay, we had water from the beach. I watched the waves that morning. They were already incredibly dirty. The bay and the ocean met every single part of Rockaway during the storm. There was at least 2 feet of flooding everywhere, sometimes up to 6 or 7 feet of flooding, depending on where you lived. Everyone's been affected. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter where you are, every single person's been affected. And so a lot of right now is getting those basements pumped out, debris getting pulled out, you know, sweeping out huge chunks of just gunk and junk and trying to figure out where it all goes. The boardwalk is destroyed. You know, I watched the boardwalk out my window come rushing down. The water level here got up to about 5 feet, and the winds were almost 20 miles per hour, so it looked like the ocean coming through this entire place. I watched cars rolling down the street. I mean, it was scary. And out the window, you could see the fire. You could see this huge flame of fire coming from Breezy Point. And they really, I mean, there were, I think, 80 homes lost over there and just devastated. So the last couple of days have been very inspiring because we've had so many people coming. People are starting to realize that Rockaway was hit as bad as it was hit. And they're coming to start helping and starting to think about us a little bit more. So we'll see what happens. I don't know when we're going to get electricity back. I don't know. A lot of the people's homes are heated by baseboard heaters, and this is salt water we're talking about. So salt water is going to kill everything, you know? Anything, any kind of tools or cars or anything that runs on these different motors or electricity, when that salt water hits it, it's destroyed, you know?
Now, how are the relief efforts that are taking place here different from what we're seeing with FEMA and the National Guard down the street?
FEMA down the street, from what I understand, is handing out pieces of paper that tell you to call a phone number to get help. Here you come and you get help immediately. We're going to start organizing and having people come down with we're encouraging people who come down and want to do manpower help, bring your own cleaning supplies. Be your own self-sufficient cleaning person so that we can start sending you to homes and you just knock on the door and you can go in and you can start cleaning. You don't have to come here and grab cleaning supplies. You've got your own to go out. We're going to start trying to put signs up at the ends of streets and do red flags so that people can put red flags out if they do need help, so that we have a better idea of who's doing things on their own, who's okay, who's not. You know what I mean? Because it's hard. You walk around and it's just such devastation that you don't even quite know where to start. And sometimes when it's that overwhelming, you don't quite know where to go. FEMA's providing cell phone charging down there, but you gotta wait in line, I don't know, for an hour to be able to get your cell phone plugged in, you know? Besides that, I don't know what they're doing, you know? I've seen some cleanup. There was definitely a lot of the boardwalk that's been moved, but, you know, nothing that I'm sure is happening in Wall Street or cleanup that's happening in other parts of Manhattan, you know.
Speaking of Wall Street, what is the connection with Occupy Wall Street and this relief effort?
Sandy Relief, basically, you know, Occupy Wall Street were one of the main people who started immediately knowing that Rockaway was the one that was the hardest hit. I was contacted pretty much immediately from friends of mine who are in Occupy Wall Street, like Bobby and Olivia Katz, you know, who contacted me and were reaching out and saying, we want to bring Occupy down there, we want to help with the relief effort, you know. And they've been the only ones that have really helped, you know what I mean, and really been able to make real tangible things that are going on right now. We've been open since 8 o'clock this morning. We have been giving things away all day long. People are walking away with smiles on their faces. People are able to, you know, for one night, be able to not be in a totally dark room because they've gotten flashlights. You know, they have warm clothes for their children. They have clean diapers. You know, they're going to actually be able to eat tonight.
No, Amy, that was Catherine Yeager. I spoke to her in the Rockaways on Friday outside Veggie Island, which had been transformed into this really impressive relief hub. While we were there were several cars that came by. They were able to ask for specific items, and then volunteers would search the building. In one case, someone asked for baby food, which is something that FEMA and the National Guard did not have down the street. And they had a box of baby food. They were able to run it out to the car and give it to them, and they drove off with the baby food. It's interesting. There was an article in Slate yesterday titled, "Is Occupy Wall Street Outperforming the Red Cross in Hurricane Relief?"
Well, that's an interesting question. We're going to go to break. When we come back, we're going to Staten Island, where the Staten Island Borough President has said stop supporting the Red Cross. Stay with us.